Welcome to another edition of Red Meat. I'm Jim Geraghty, along with Mark Hemingway, and today we're offering a special media bashing edition. Or this will go very well with our other feature, In the Tank, that we were unveiling earlier. Basically, kind of chewing over a question that hopefully we'll never have to seriously consider after November 4th. But let's take the admittedly quite plausible possibility that Barack Obama is the next president of the United States. If you've been paying any attention to this race and you have a pulse, you've probably noticed that the coverage of Obama is slightly different than it is from Republican candidates. And Sarah Palin has been portrayed as the Antichrist without all the charm. And so it's one of those things where we're conservatives, we grind our teeth about it, we were frustrated over it, we complain about it, we point out egregious examples, we tell the fact-checking organizations that they're 180 degrees wrong. If Obama is president, will the coverage change? I kind of feel like we've gone over a threshold and we're never going back. Mark, you've got some thoughts on this.
Well, I mean, yes, I mean, I do think the coverage will change to a certain extent. I mean, I don't think we're getting rid of, any sort of lefty bias in the media by any stretch. But the fact of the matter is that the media, for better or for worse, always likes to fancy themselves as being somehow opposed to the powerful, whoever they are to a certain extent. And I think that, certainly, Bill Clinton didn't, get a fair, shake. Wasn't exactly a media darling by the time he left the White House, simply because of, the scandals and other things that he'd put himself through. Now, I'm not saying Obama's immediately going to run out there and get embroiled in scandals or anything like that. But there will be controversies. Certainly if the economy goes south and people are unhappy, it's going to be in the media's interest, financially and otherwise, to be critical of Obama. Will that if they take a more critical tack against Obama, will that suddenly change around 2012 or so? Probably. But I'm not willing to say that the major media are useless yet.
Mark, my initial response to that argument is I want to say from your lips to God's ears. I completely hope that you're right. I'm a skeptic, and I think we've seen in the coverage of this race a lot of mainstream media voices feeling liberated and being able to express their inner selves. Look, Keith Olbermann has always been nuts, but he's clearly ratcheted it up in recent years. And the entire identity of MSNBC. You've written quite eloquently and funnily about Newsweek becoming Obama Week. Another campaign blogger called Rolling Stone Obama porn today, and I think it all kind of fits.
Is this the third or fourth cover with him?
Oh, it's way ahead. Some astonishingly high level.
For a music magazine, I might point out.
But it's one of those things where I don't think these people are going to want to go back. And I'll offer you a theory. Many folks, whatever your partisan identity, are very pleased to see an African American become president of the United States, if that comes to pass. I think a lot of folks in the press have wanted to tell that story. It's on par with Kennedy being the first Catholic president. They see this as a major breaking of a barrier. And both consciously and subconsciously, they want to tell this story. And in some cases, I think they've got book deals. I think they've got the Gwen Ifill book deal thing. And, some people, actually, like the woman at National Journal, sign on and decide, by golly, I want to be a part of this, and I want to join the Obama campaign. I think once they become president, they can't let him fail. They can't let him be a bad president, because then, then the story ends unhappily. They feel a need to guarantee a happy ending for the Obama campaign, and that for the story of Obama, and that means his approval ratings stay reasonably high.
I see what you're saying, but I think that if all things being equal, that's true. But there are too many external factors. I mean, if we're in the middle of a severe depression, over a year from now, and Obama's president, nobody's going to care that this whole mess started on Bush's watch. It's going to be Obama's mess, and people are going to be mad about whether he's doing anything about it. Now, they can rationalize and they can spin it all they want, but the fact of the matter is they are a reflection of public sentiment to a certain degree. Now, here's where the genius of the Obama candidacy, I think, is generally succeeding. I mean, people talk about the Bradley effect and these other things. Frankly, the race thing has been a net plus in a huge way for Obama. Exactly as you say, because there's a lot of people in the media and a lot of people, out in the electorate that want to tell that story. They want to believe in the story. They want to believe in these barriers being broken. But once the barrier is broken, it's at what level does, an actual view of equality kick in? Well, it's not that he's a, black president so much as he's just a president like any other, and if he's a president like any other, is he a bad or good president at that point in time? And I think that given where we are as a society. Look, the thing is, people are making a big deal about breaking these barriers. Look, we broke this barrier a long time ago. I think that, William F. Buckley wrote a column about how America was ready for a black president, I think, in the late 60s. All right, I don't think that people are really hung up on racial issues in this country as much as the media wants to play up that angle because it makes a good story. The fact of the matter is we're going to get beyond that because we got beyond that a long time ago as a society, and it's just taken a little while for the right guy to come along and get elected, and that happens to be Barack Obama for good or for ill.
Let me offer one contrast about covering this campaign as a contrast to 2004. One of the great pleasures for doing my job 4 years ago, and I think for a lot of folks who were the rise of the blogosphere, was the Dan Rather story.
Yeah.
The Rathergate, and this exposing this glaring case of mainstream media bias and falling for a hoax, et cetera. And one of the things that made that was the blogs noticed it, the blogs wrote about it.
Yeah.
But it took other mainstream media entities writing about it to make it really explode. At some point, we needed a Howard Kurtz of the Washington Post to start writing about that. In this cycle, there have been no stories that have come from the righty blogosphere and exploded into the mainstream press. There really haven't. You have seen all kinds of crap from the lefty blogs. The Sarah Palin supports rape kits,
yeah.
and Sarah Palin is a member of the Independence Party. All kinds of absolute BS coming from Daily Kos, ending up on the New York Times front page.
Well, that may be, but what made, at the end of the day, those aren't really big stories. Look, they've made it into the major media, but a lot of them have been false, and they haven't had legs. Have they had an effect? Yes, but could you say that any one of those stories could have made or broken the McCain campus candidacy? I don't think so, and I think you could definitely say that of the Rathergate story. The Rathergate story was a big, juicy, meaty story that was hard for anyone to ignore. It is also, it doesn't hurt that, Kerry was a much more unlikable candidate than Barack Obama, and yes, he didn't have those other things going for him, certainly. But you got to, I think you also have to remember, though, that even in 2004, I was blogging for a website called Rathergate.com, in fact, at the time.
Fine folks then.
And it took a lot of pushing, even then, to get that story out there. So, look, people, at the end of the day, I still believe that any damning or really, truly damning or really, truly incriminating stuff is going to float through the morass, hell broth of, whatever, mainstream media coverage that we currently have. Now, all that crap around the margins, all the stuff that the front page stories in the New York Times is going to have to retract about Sarah Palin and on lots of little things, they can push that a lot. But the truly game-changing, the truly important stuff, I think the media is still more or less trustworthy. And I may live to regret that I ever uttered those words.
I hope that you don't. I hope that I am wrong. I hope that I am right. But I'm feeling a lot of NRO listeners and watchers out there aren't quite so trusting of the mainstream media.
I never said I was trusting of the mainstream. Let's be perfectly clear here.
Okay.
I'm just saying that the mainstream media isn't a completely lost cause yet.
I find your presence of faith disturbing, Mark. But anyway, so this has been a particularly enjoyable media bashing version of Red Meat. You'll be seeing more of us in the weeks ahead, so keep it tuned here to YouTube and the Corner on National Review Online. I'm Jim Geraghty with Mark Hemingway. Thanks very much for joining us.